So thank you all for coming to Cock Talk.
He has trouble counting change with the hands thing. Wait, stop. Sorry.
Yes, but I don't think that Dana Carvey's movie coming out at that same time was really that big a problem for our country. I still don't know why you're making such a big deal about September 11th, 2001. I mean,
fucking hate you. Well, they don't necessarily need to be anathema, but they are definitely on different ends of a spectrum.
Oh boy, howdy. See, I have a genetic predisposition against redheads, so...
Because you are one.
Right.
Yeah, combustion. Yeah, we've heard it before.
Yep. The only time I change the setting is when I take the hair trimmer down to the nether regions. Like, that's the only time. Other than that, it's all just a tube.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just learned more than anyone doesn't know. How about you all?
I'm joking. I use Veet. After the four Gospels, what's the next book of the Bible?
Acts.
Okay. And after that, it's Romans, isn't it?
I'm drunk. Romans. Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. And if you look at the 15th chapter of Romans, okay, you will find that it actually mentions the ability to arm yourself. That's why it's AR-15. Thank you. Checkmate atheists. And anytime there's action in the ring, Scott Hall is taking all the bumps because Kevin Nash kind of sucks as a worker. History of Time.
Where we connect memory to the real. My name is Ed Blaylock. I'm a world history teacher up here in Northern California. Currently having to make a drive of a little more than 50 miles each way to go to my classroom to have 2 or 3 kids show up on a given class period. And between recording sessions, I was just mentioning to Damian that I have gotten notified of an interview possibility, but the school that would be interviewing me probably will not be able to offer me enough money for me to afford to take the job, so I'm kind of right back where I started. And on that wonderfully not at all depressing note, who are you and what have you got going on?
I'm Damian Harmony. I'm a Latin teacher here in Northern California, and I am still employed. Continue to be employed, and I'm not looking for any new employment. And yet, and it's always and yet. Yes, and yet I am encouraging my members to save up for a strike because despite the fact that we had one a few years ago because our superintendent wouldn't enforce the contract that was legally binding and enact it, he has decided by fiat to state that our current MOU is just outdated and we're going to change things. So I don't think we're striking anytime soon because there's no point in it with 10 days left.
Yeah.
But the odds of a strike happening sometime next fall, I would be surprised if it didn't happen. So I'm telling people save up, and I'll start organizing meal trains, which means I'm right back where I started.
Lovely.
Yeah. So that's fun. Hey, so last time I kind of ended the story. I ended with the thesis statement, essentially, of what Jerry Lawler said during a match between the New Age Outlaws, who were bad guys turned good guys because the crowd changed their minds, not because they changed their wrestling style.
Yeah.
And they were wrestling a flaccid attempt at having tradition, who were supposed to be bad guys who kind of stayed, we don't give a shit about you bad guys. It's called Go Home Heat.
Okay.
Or Popcorn Heat. Oh, this is the match where you go get popcorn because this person's out there. Or Go Away Heat. You don't hate them for any other reason than you just wish they would go away. Like you don't want to see them get their ass kicked. You just don't care.
You just wow.
Yeah.
That's the worst kind of heat.
It's divorce heat, really. So
I think they ought to adopt that term.
I think so. But they were called,
especially with the track record so many of these guys have with marriages.
Oh boy. But yeah, they were called the New Midnight Express, which was a new version of an 80s group that was really, really good and really, really popular. Anyway, during that match, which happened the same night that Mick Foley got thrown off of, then climbed back up, and then thrown through the Hell in the Cell structure. Man.
So okay. So
but
the Okay, the ring is elevated up off the floor
about
6 feet.
No.
Feet?
Let's see. The ring, apron, guys are pretty much up to their waist, maybe a little up to the middle of their back. So roughly 3.5, 4 feet.
Okay, so it's 4 feet.
4
to
feet.
The mat.
Yeah.
Then from the mat, the Hell in a Cell structure was how many feet?
The top of the Hell in a Cell structure was 16 feet in the air.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
So
now it's
12,
grown. It's
so
grown.
12
but
feet
yeah.
from the ring.
From the top of from
the surface of the ring.
Yeah.
And then so he got flung or he fell or
I would say hurled.
Hurled.
Okay.
He got
Hurled. Yeah.
16 feet.
Yes.
What broke his fall?
The Spanish announcing table, as is tradition. And because at that time, remember the barricades were basically just steel bike racks.
Yeah.
That was better for him because half of his body ended up sliding under that, whereas if they had a solid barrier, it would have snapped his back in half because he would have just folded up backward.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and he separated his shoulder in that fall, and then with the separated shoulder, he hauled his 289-pound body back up. He had to get off a stretcher first, by the way.
Okay.
And by the way, to get the stretcher in, they had to lift the Hell in the Cell. And the Undertaker was still on top of that. So then they get the stretcher out, and then they start lowering it, and Mick Foley's like, no, I got more gas in the tank. So he gets up off the fucking stretcher, and legit, not kayfabe, people are trying to stop him. And he climbs back up with a separated shoulder. Now, by the time he gets back up there, he is so exhausted that the Undertaker does a good job of reading the room and realizes, I'm going to have to carry this part of the match. So he starts walloping him with a chair.
Okay.
Like you do.
Which, I mean,
yeah.
Being that both of these guys are clearly experts at what they do.
Yes.
You can wallop,
in
air quotes, a guy with a chair in a way that looks like you're about to murder him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's hitting him on the flat of the back.
Okay.
But that's still raising welts. I mean, you're still smashing a guy over the back with a steel chair.
Okay.
So he's doing that. Now, The Undertaker is about 328 pounds at this time, and Mick Foley's 289 pounds at this time. So that's 600 plus pounds on top of a structure that was not made to hold human beings. And as they're walking across it, the zip ties, there's a pling, 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 and you see them just crush through. And so the Undertaker goes to chokeslam him, one of his moves, chokeslam him through the ring. And I don't know that he meant to actually open up that part of the ring. I can't quite tell, honestly. I don't know if it was rigged. My gut says it was not. But he goes to chokeslam him, and Mick Foley is so tired that he doesn't... Normally a wrestler will jump up so that the chokeslam looks more impressive. Yeah. Mick Foley had no gas in his legs, and so he just... And that saved his life because normally if you go up, you go back and you rotate. Well, he would have over-rotated and probably died right there. So instead, he just collapsed backwards. He said it was the worst chokeslam he ever took. Well, the problem was he was getting chokeslammed, and here's why I don't think he was meant to be chokeslammed through the ring. He was chokeslammed onto the chair.
Okay.
Well, the chair and Mick, and they had just stood there, and they'd weakened it, and the whole thing collapsed through. And Mick falls and hits the ring. The chair smashes him in the face from 12 feet up, and that ring does not have that much give.
No.
In fact, it's rumored that that ring finally got changed to have more give once Vince McMahon started taking bumps on it as part of the storylines. Like, God damn.
Do something with the springs on that. Yeah.
But so yeah, he gets slammed through that. That smashes one of his few teeth left. He's got plenty of teeth, but smashes another one. And he inhales it, and it comes out his nose and lands on his mustache. He's a fully bearded fellow. And he's out cold. Now he's the match is kind of stopped again. More people come out to check on him again, and he kind of crawls to the middle, or to the what do you call it? The turnbuckles, And he's also bit his lip so much so that there's a clear hole in it. And so he's trying to stick his tongue through that hole because he knows, visually that would look really cool. But what it looks like instead is that he's just smiling because he's doing this. And it looks like a smile, a bloody-toothed smile with a tooth on his thing. And so Terry Funk, remember Terry Funk? He comes out to buy Mick some time and takes a choke slam from The Undertaker, who has now come into the ring. And then Undertaker kind of leads Mick through the rest of the match. Mick at one point gets his shine. He starts to beat on The Undertaker quite a bit. He uses a chair and all kinds of stuff because who fucking cares about rules? And then Mick Foley goes and grabs thumbtacks. And about 1,000 thumbtacks. Galvanized, shiny, looks really good. And he gets, I think, chokeslammed and then tombstoned onto the thumbtacks.
Wow.
And then he finally loses.
Okay, so just to refresh everybody's memory.
Sure.
Mick Foley, of course, spent a significant amount of time wrestling puroresu.
Yep.
In Japan.
Yeah, death matches.
Yep. Yep.
ECW.
And had been in the ECW.
Yes.
So.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So to him, this was a rough day.
Yeah, I mean, he actually said that they needed to make that match the spectacle that it was because he didn't think they were going to have a good match, and that would fool the audience into thinking they saw a good match.
Yeah, well, because
it's so spectacular.
ECW kind of the violence is the story, as you said.
Yep, absolutely.
Ago.
Because it was kind of a cold start of an old feud that had already been settled at least a year before.
Oh, okay.
So he's got some grounding there. Now, I don't remember if he brought out the barbed wire baseball bat or not for that one. That might have been a different one. Because why not?
Yeah, well, if you want to get nuts, let's get nuts.
Oh, yeah, boy howdy.
Yeah.
So now the fun thing is later on in that match, Stone Cold Steve Austin has a first blood match with Kane. And whoever bleeds first loses.
Yeah.
And Mick Foley and Undertaker are supposed to interfere in that match. So Mick goes back out
with
there.
With a separated shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And a concussion.
I imagine.
No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And he still goes out and interferes in that match. He doesn't remember any of this. There's video of it, so he's reconstructed it. But yeah. And he's toured with the story of this match, by the way, for years now. And it's so compelling because he is such a down-to-earth guy that, like, when he talks about it, it's like listening to, I don't know, your favorite uncle talk about, when he worked at a carnival or something.
Wow.
It's wild. It's nuts. So at that same...
My God.
King of the Ring, Jerry Lawler had said that basically they don't really care if anybody likes them. They're just being themselves, and that's why people do like them, right? So it's no longer about pleasing anybody else. It's about declaring and defining yourself.
Finding your bliss.
As it were.
To get kind of hippie dip.
Yeah,
But yeah.
But it's in an aggressive and
very
confrontational... kind of way.
Yeah. Kind of way.
So that's what I ended it with. And I wanted to tell you a quick epilogue here. In fact, I think I have... Yeah, I think this is kind of the only epilogue because I think that last part was a good button on it. There's a guy named Brian Pillman. He was a professional wrestler, and I think his career and his life story is probably the best encapsulation of the 1990s and its impact on wrestling. I think you could personify it and grind it down into one person. It would be Brian Pillman. By the way, Vice did a thing on him as well.
Okay.
It's kind of fun that Vice is lining up with all the stuff that I'm noticing. Now, his life story is one of hardship, like I said. He was maybe 6 feet tall and in the 190s of weight, and he ended up playing nose tackle in football.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean college football. And I mean semi-pro football. And I mean pro football. He worked so hard in football that he ended up making the special team squad for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Nice.
He was also the last guy cut on the Buffalo Bills. And he'd grown up, here's the wild thing, he'd grown up having dozens and dozens of surgeries to remove polyps from his vocal cords. So there would be weeks and weeks where he just couldn't speak.
Wow.
And like from childhood on up. And so his voice was always very raspy, and he had trouble expressing himself in some ways. So he ended up in Calgary playing Canadian football. Okay. And once that career ended, he was already in Calgary. Now, fun thing about Calgary, it's the hometown of the Hart family.
Yes.
And so the Hart Dungeon and Stampede Wrestling, which was its own territory, is where he goes. So here's a guy with a ton of pluck and a ton of courage and a ton of, like, I've made it through all this other stuff, and a wealth of old school wrestling training from a dynasty family. Okay. This guy is steeped in tradition.
Right.
Okay. Within a few years, he'd found his way to the NWA and WCW in 1989. Remember, it was NWA/WCW.
Yeah.
And then he was what you would call a white meat babyface. And he was known as Flying Brian. So people liked him. He had a good moveset. He was exciting. But he didn't really stand out, and he was a good guy because he was a good guy.
Okay.
So standard white meat babyface. He was a high flyer, at least for the standard back then. And dude could work. But ultimately, WCW, as always, uses good people poorly. And despite his having some amazing matches, he never really got out from under the shadow of shitty creative control. His matches against Jushin Thunder Liger were amazing. Jushin Thunder Liger was IWGPA. Now, feel free to correct me on that if somebody finds that. But he was like the light heavyweight champion, basically what a cruiserweight would become.
Okay.
Jushin Thunder Liger is amazing. Truly good high-flying wrestling and storytelling. Like, both of them were able to do both. But mostly he was on the lower end of the card. He'd excite the crowd maybe, but nobody had any faith in him to go further. And sometimes he'd rise up to the mid-card, but as often as not, he'd end up on the lower part of the card. Now, in 1992, Flying Brian turned heel, and so now he's just Brian Pillman. And still he's not getting that much heat since he is so poorly used, right? You turn someone heel, supposedly, when they're a pretty good face, so that people will hate you more. So it was tepid at best. But in 1993, he was teamed with a very technically sound but ultimately journeyman wrestler that the Bookers couldn't figure out. Okay, you might have heard of him. His name was Stunning Steve Austin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, both dropped their adjectives, so it was no longer Flying Brian Pillman. It was just Brian Pillman. And it was no longer Stunning Steve Austin. It was just Steve Austin. And they became the Hollywood Blondes. Neither man was from Hollywood. They were both blonde.
Okay.
Yeah. Steve Austin had flaxen hair, but very thin.
Okay.
It looked like straw.
Okay.
So despite the fact that neither one wanted to be in a tag team, they became actually good partners, and they were really pushing the bar as far as getting heat. They did a good job getting heat when they were given nothing. They took on the Four Horsemen, who at that time were good guys. Because tradition, because they've been around so long.
Yeah, okay.
And because the South is just a weird fucking place. But after 5 months, they were broken up because why keep a good thing going? Because Brian...
WCW.
Right.
Yeah.
So Brian goes over to ECW very briefly in 94 before he comes back in 95 to WCW. He has a couple matches there. He comes back to WCW. At this point, he's a low-card guy again, but he was ceasing to be a heel, and he was becoming more of a cool heel, a tweener.
Yeah.
Now, it kind of makes sense. He was dipped in the river ECW, and so he comes back.
Yeah.
But he was allied with Arn Anderson.
Dipped in the river ECW. I don't want to think about what's in that river.
Or what sticks to you.
Yeah.
But you know that a kayak will be used.
Yeah,
so.
well, you're gonna. Yeah, that's the only way to travel down that river.
So Arn Anderson and Ric Flair are the core of the Four Horsemen, right?
Yeah.
Brian Pillman is allied with Arn Anderson, but against Ric Flair, which is kind of an interesting thing because now you've got an actual match between Flair and Anderson for once. And they're friends, but they're just disagreeing over this one thing. And Anderson believes, he's a good kid and blah, blah, and he keeps insulting Flair and all this. Also, at the end of 1995, he begins to feud with Kevin Sullivan, who was the actual booker at the time, who was loosely allied with Arn Anderson, but like more like we're both old timers, we're both have a respect for each other. And if you think that's confusing, here comes his loose cannon gimmick at the end of 95 leading into 96. Loose cannon. Now, you know what a loose cannon is. You know your military history better than I do.
Well, yeah.
So please tell us what a loose cannon is.
Well, a loose cannon would be a disaster aboard a ship.
Mm-hmm.
A loose cannon is one that's come off of its gun carriage.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you fire it instead, well, it's going to propel a cannonball in one direction, but you have no way of reliably predicting what it's going to destroy within the very crowded, very volatile gun deck of the ship.
As dangerous to you as to your enemies.
Yes.
Yeah. So Brian's gimmick was that he was a loose cannon.
Okay.
And he was a maniac, and he was not able to be controlled by veterans who respected his talent. So Arn Anderson is giving him a lot of leeway, but he just can't control this guy. And then Brian begins to blur the lines, making up worked shoots. Now, a worked shoot is where you basically go off on someone,
okay,
about things that are real about them, but you've agreed ahead of time.
Okay.
And you know that you're working. So you're just going to sprinkle a little bit more reality in there. But really, we're blending the lines between the performance and the reality. And so the thing was, his worked shoots were only worked shoots to him. Everybody else thought he was shooting on his promos. He worked the boys, which there's kind of a fraternity backstage. So if you're working the boys, you're not violating kayfabe. You're keeping kayfabe up too much.
Okay.
Okay. The reason why he was working the boys was because he knew about the dirt sheets, like I talked about in the last episode. And he knew that the boys would report his antics to the dirt sheets, and then he could bend the reality of wrestling more and leverage himself into making more money.
Tactics into strategy.
Yes. 1996.
Okay.
Mid-90s. Now, at no point should we forget that this was an effort of Brian Pillman's to maximize his value, and it's because he had suffered a number of injuries and he had 5 children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's motivated to find a way to bring in the cash.
And quickly and early, because he's not going to last as long at this career as he wanted to, which makes it like the second or third career that he's not going to last as long at it as he wanted to. Incidentally, his home life was an absolute mess. The documentary about it does a really good job, but his ex-wife committed suicide. His current wife was mentally unstable and drug addicted. He was drug addicted. There were threats of divorce. There was domestic abuse. So he's a loose cannon more and more. The lines are blurring.
Yeah.
In January of 1996, Pillman goes off script and he grabs Bobby Heenan by the shoulders and neck. Now, this is a problem because Heenan had had neck surgery and was very wary of any physicality by this point. And Heenan, on live TV, had a headset on. He said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he got up and walked away. He thought Pillman was a maniac, so he worked Bobby Heenan. More importantly, he got Bobby Heenan to swear about something that he had done. So he knew that by rattling Bobby Heenan and getting Bobby Heenan to think he's truly nuts, that more people will think that he's weird. So in this weird carny world, Pillman is convincing the other carnival workers that he really is that nuts. In February of 1996, Pillman had an I Respect You strap match.
Okay.
It's WCW. They're just all about stipulations all the goddamn time. So strap match is you have a 10 to 15 foot strap linking you to the other guy.
Yeah.
You have to go around the ring and hit all 4 turnbuckles in sequence to win. Okay. And if you do that in an I Respect You strap match, then the other guy has to say, "I respect you." So he had this match with Kevin Sullivan.
Okay.
The other thing is you can use the strap to beat the shit out of people.
Well, yeah.
Right?
I mean, duh.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting here is that Arn Anderson is playing the frustrated father figure to Bryan's antics the whole time. And this was a match that Arn Anderson, kayfabe, booked him into because Bryan's got to learn some respect for the business.
Okay. All right.
Now,
I'm going to have to teach him a hard lesson.
That's right.
But, okay.
Get the strap. I mean, talk about Southern justice.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, This is February of 1996. Now, I would also point out that Brian Pillman was as traditional a wrestler as they came. And yet, because of his inability to get anywhere using that tradition, he had to go farther and farther afield.
Okay. This makes sense.
Yeah. Now, Bryan had other ideas about this strap match, by the way. He comes out to the Four Horsemen's music. Which was interesting. At one point, he was kind of in the Four Horsemen, but then he antagonized Flair, so he wasn't. And the WCW's use of the Four Horsemen was really, really like slipshod and not very clear. But he comes out to the Four Horsemen's music, and he and Kevin Sullivan, that's the guy he's supposed to have the match with, that's the guy who's the booker, they start brawling before the strap could even be put on them. So, in the ring, they're brawling. They don't brawl outside of the ring. They're brawling in the ring, but they're supposed to put the strap on.
There's no way to get that phrase.
No, you've got me pegged.
Yeah.
But
well done.
Thank you.
I'm not even mad. Not even mad.
So, before they are equipped with the strap.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. They start brawling. So they're already breaking the rules in 96. Again, the mid 90s.
Yeah.
It's getting everywhere. And they start brawling. The brawl is what wrestlers would refer to as a potato harvest.
Okay. Why that?
So if you are wrestling, you're supposed to give a working punch. A working punch looks like it does a lot of damage, but it should be gentle as a breeze.
Okay.
Not everybody can do that and make it look good, so you can kind of stiffen up your punches to make it look good. You just got to stick around the thick parts of the skull, right? So that's still it can still be a working punch.
Which is why we see so many of these guys getting punched in the forehead all the time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And also along the sides of the jaw, because then you can open your hand up at the last second and make a nice slapping sound. It doesn't really hurt much. Now, a working punch, it has to look good. In order to look good, sometimes a working punch can be known as snug. Snug means not quite stiff, but it stings.
Okay.
Stiff means you're hitting me kind of hard.
Okay.
And you got a receipt coming. A receipt is where I'm going to hit you back, and you're going to calm the fuck down.
This is wow. There's so much.
It's carny.
Yeah.
It's so carny.
Yeah.
Now, a potato is where you hit someone stiff. So, potato harvest is where you're just trading. You're punching the shit out of each other. Now,
I love the etymological.
Yes.
Just the linguistic drift.
Yes.
Of snug to
Just
potato.
Stiff. Yeah. You got to get stiff, but yeah.
To potato harvest.
Yes. Because it's just potatoes everywhere. Frederick the Great would be proud, you know?
I love picturing guys talking about it to each other.
Yeah.
Using listening to the vernacular. It's like thieves can't.
It really is.
Like,
it really is. Because if you really think about it, wrestling is thievery. You are pretending to fight.
Oh yeah,
to get people's money. Yeah, it is.
Carney is thievery in that sense. Yeah.
The fan is the mark.
Yeah.
You're trying to con him. You are pretending that it's simulated combat made to look real, unless you're in Japan, it's the other way around. But did I ever tell you my
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing, man. Yeah, it was a total potato harvest.
Yeah.
They were just wailing on each other.
Oh yeah. So, which happens.
Yeah.
Like sometimes wrestlers will agree to work stiff because it's good for the match.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll agree to work stiff because they got some shit to work out between each other.
Okay.
And varying degrees. Now there's a couple fun stories. One, I just occurred to me. I think the simulated combat made to look real, but Japanese wrestling is real combat made to look fake. I think I got that from Jim Cornette.
I think you did.
Yeah, and did I ever tell you my favorite quote of his? I mean, Jesus Christ, he's got 1,000. I mean, he's from Tennessee, so he's got. Or no, he's from Louisville. Sorry,
okay, Kentucky.
Kentucky. And so, like, what was one? Her name was Virginia. They called her Virgin for short, but they didn't call her that for long.
Okay.
Stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that
so my favorite one, though, is he was talking about, I think, his uncle. He says, my uncle was one hell of a lawyer. He once got busted in Texas for sodomy, but he talked him down to tailgating. Like, I don't know that travels across time very well, but people have to understand that in Texas, sodomy was a crime until 2002. Yeah.
All right.
So, But, okay. So... the other story I have about this is, and this is a very common one. Wrestlers tell this about other people all the time. They said it's become apocryphal. It's almost mimetic. You'll be wrestling an old timer, and the old timer says, "Hey, why don't you go and hit me with your shoot punch?" And the guy says, "Really? Why?" He says, "Because your working punch is killing me." So yes. The brawl between Brian Pillman and Kevin Sullivan, and Kevin Sullivan is the booker. I keep pointing this out. So the guy who knows how contrived it all is because he wrote it down, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people say the most powerful finisher is the eraser.
Yeah.
Because you can erase the guy. In fact, the name for a booker was sometimes called the pencil.
Yeah.
Like you just call him the pencil.
Yeah.
So it's, metonymy. In fact, if you book somebody into a bad match and or a bad payoff, it's called "You pencil fucked me." It's just fun.
So but he manages to get into a genuine brawl with the booker.
Within the confines of a match of
a constructed
match that is constructed to be brutal as fuck because it's a strap match, and they're giving each other potatoes.
Actually,
yes.
Wow.
Again, the layers, the revolutions, the sublimations of this. After less than a minute of action, though, which I'm sorry, getting punched in the face for a minute sounds like a long goddamn time to me.
To me, repeated.
But
backing and forth.
So and I think in this particular strap match, it was you didn't have to hit the four corners. You just had to beat the guy so badly that he would speak into the mic and say, "I respect you." I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which means the referee had the mic.
Okay.
After about a minute of action, Brian Pillman chases the ref around the ring and grabs the mic from him eventually. Before they're even strapped up. And he says, "I respect you, Booker man." Now, when he did that, he broke kayfabe.
Wow.
And then he leaves the ring. Pillman had just pulled back a very venerated curtain in February of 1996. And Arn Anderson ends up going out there in his street clothes to do the match. Because you promised this match. So, Arn, get out there. What? Well, talk to Brian after. So now, who's Brian not working? He's working the fans. He's working his opponent, who is the booker.
Are we sure his last name wasn't Moriarty?
Right? Oh, it gets much more Moriarty from there. So from there, Brian Pillman is trying to create more controversy and blur the lines even more. he convinces Eric Bischoff, then the VP and the guy.
Guy you got to talk to.
Yeah, he convinces him to fire him for this. If not for this, then close to it. Now, he'd been bargaining with Eric, or negotiating with Eric Bischoff for a better contract, and Eric was like, I can't justify paying you more to the people above me. I'm sorry, do something. And then Brian Pillman's like, I'll fucking do something. And then he starts blowing the lines, right? So he says, look, Eric, what you should do is fire me, but like actually draw up termination papers and sign them, because then the people in the office will talk to the dirt sheets, and then the dirt sheets will report that I've been fired, and this loose cannon thing can really take off. So Pillman gets Eric Bischoff to go with him on this. Now, Eric Bischoff claims that he was in on it the whole time. I think that Eric Bischoff has a thing about not wanting to look foolish like he got worked, but he gets Eric Bischoff to actually fire him in real life for a storyline.
Right.
Real contract, real papers, everything.
Yeah.
Now, Brian Pillman is getting the reality to back up the fiction. So then he's like, okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go invade ECW. So then he goes and he invades ECW. Brian Pillman invaded ECW.
Wow.
Remember ECW fans and ECW?
Yeah, okay.
So Brian Pillman in 1996 is invading ECW. And he shows up, and they did, this is all contrived, right?
Okay.
But it looks like a shoot, but it's still a work. But it's a worked shoot, right?
Yeah.
So he shows up, I think they buy him a ticket and stuff like that. So he has an actual ticket to hold up to the camera and stuff like that. And they're like, he shows up on camera and it looks like he wasn't supposed to be there. He's starting to make trouble, just kind of like how Taz got in there, Sandman fears Taz. Same kind of thing. Now he gets interviewed by ECW, and so he gets pulled up into the ring. So now he's breaking that magical barrier, right?
Right. Yeah.
In ECW, it's much less a barrier, but it's still symbolic, After his first interview, he threatens to take out his penis and micturate on the canvas. Of course, he says, I'm going to take out my Johnson and piss all over this place. And then he starts to unzip and reaches in. He gets removed by security.
Okay.
Even the smart fans of ECW were tricked. Because of all the shit that they'd been reading on the dirt sheets, because of all the shit that he'd done in WCW, because he kept blurring the lines so hard, even the smart marks get tricked. So now Brian Pillman is not under contract with any of the three main promotions, which, by the way, ECW is a distant third, but it is the third promotion now.
Okay.
Tactical becomes strategic, right? But now all three of them are very hungry for him. And because the loose cannon gimmick was getting over, right? So he'd also crashed. He went to Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer is a journalist who writes one of the dirt sheets. A lot of wrestlers don't like him. A lot of wrestlers do like him. He's kind of the Inquirer meets the Sports Illustrated guy, right? And he gets a lot of inside dirt from a lot of wrestlers. So he was at an insider cable industry event, Brian Meltzer was, and Brian Pillman's like, hey, can I borrow your credentials? He's like, yeah, I'm done with them. So he crashes it, and he completely got one over on Vince McMahon. So Vince McMahon is there advertising for what they're doing and all this, and it's a cable insiders thing, so I can't imagine how shitty this is. But Brian Pillman gets up there. He's like, oh, my God, you're Vince McMahon. He shakes his hand and gets a picture with him and stuff like that. So now he's got a picture with Vince McMahon. He risked getting arrested to do this. Completely blurring the lines. Okay. Now, while he's in talks with WWF at this point, because Vince McMahon turns to Jim Ross and maybe other people, he's like, who the hell was that? He's like, oh, it's Brian Pillman. He was really good down in WCW. He's like, he's fucking crazy. He's like, that makes good TV. So now he's in talks with WWF. But while he's in these talks with WWF, he falls asleep behind the wheel of his Humvee and crashes and has a terrible, terrible crash to the point where they have to fuse his foot into a locked foot position because it is 1996. So he's basically walking around on a foot that doesn't hardly bend at all, which means all the wrestling that he was capable of, he's no longer as capable of. And also, he's pretty fucked up from his car crash, which means more drugs, which means, yeah.
Oh, no.
So that was April of 96. The resulting accident curtails his style. He comes to the WWF on a guaranteed contract, but as a very damaged person. And I mean, he's hobbling in on crutches when he first appears. To WWF's credit, to Vince McMahon's credit, he must have smelled enough money to go ahead and go forward with it.
Okay.
And Vince McMahon's an interesting tale of two cities. Like, on the one hand, he's screwing over his best wrestler ever, Bret Hart, in 1997. On the other hand, he's paying people their guaranteed money, even though they're coming to him incredibly damaged. So, Brian Pillman acts as a commentator for a while, which, all those polyp removals.
Yeah, it's not really his thing.
But at the same time, he's recovering from his broken ankle. What he would do is he would be on IV fluids, and then he'd go work, and then he'd come home, and he'd get back on the IV fluids. But also, he is pushing forward the wild man gimmick, the loose cannon gimmick. Now, he's transitioning to a wrestling role after he attacked an unruly fan during a TV taping in Detroit of 1996, in June of 96. Now, previously, Brian Pillman, like I said, had been in a tag team with Steve Austin. But by November of 1996, Austin is involved with a very good feud with Bret Hart. Austin was now a nasty heel, known as Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Bret Hart was all that was good about wrestling, because this was November of 96. And yet, Bret Hart had to deal with this nastiness from Stone Cold Steve Austin. One of my favorite things was Stone Cold, because he's talking shit on Bret while Bret's away. So that there's a ready-made feud, right? And by the way, Bret requested this feud. He's like, I want to work with Steve when I come back.
Okay.
He believed in him that much, because Steve could fucking work at this time. It was before his broken neck.
Yeah.
But he actually said in one interview, he's like, if you put the letter S in front of Hitman, you have my exact opinion of Bret Hart. Pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, and Austin's still kind of finding his level as far as the nastiness goes, but Steve Austin is a nasty heel. He'll fuck over anybody. He doesn't care. Brian Pillman and Austin had been really good friends, but also Brian Pillman is an ally of Bret Hart's. So in October of 96, to get more heat on himself, Austin brutalizes Brian Pillman, and he lays it in snug.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Super stiff. Yeah, but Brian knew. And,
okay.
and Brian was like, yeah, this is how it has to be. But he also puts Brian Pillman's broken ankle in between a chair, the folding chair on the foldy part, and stomps it. Now, this was a work.
Okay.
Didn't actually hurt him.
Oh, God.
But, kayfabe, he broke his ankle.
Okay.
This buys Pillman more time.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, I'm going to brutalize your face, but I'm going to take care of your ankle, and honestly, you're going to get more time off. So now the angle between Austin and Hart gets a bit sideways from that, and it becomes about Austin's nastiness attacking even his old friends. So this is what's called a heater feud. So it's you take a short break away from your main feud to heat yourself up more, and then you go back into it. Now, this leads to something called now. Anytime you stomp someone's ankle in a chair, it's called Pillmanizing. Now, this leads to Brian Pillman. It's called the Pillman's Got a Gun episode.
Okay, that's not good.
No wrestling is needed for this.
Okay.
Austin goes to Pillman's home in Kentucky, which is actually his real home in Kentucky. He goes there, and there's already a TV crew and an interviewer in Pillman's house. One of my favorite parts about this was that despite Pillman's friends surrounding his house, Austin beats them all and then breaks into the house.
Wow.
Pillman produces a handgun, points it at Austin, and then the feed gets cut. I was watching this with producer George in our apartment. I was like, it was an unsettling feeling. Now, I'm going to go back in time to when I was about 11 and I lived in Florida. We had 3 channels on the TV, and it was August. and it looked like a news feed that we were watching.
Okay.
And there's the anchor, and they were talking with the reporter who was in Oman, and he's talking about how Oman has declared war on the United States, and the attack is going to happen, and then the power went out in our house. Now, we didn't have radio, we didn't have anything, and we all legit got War of the Worlds.
Wow.
For a few hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, I remember it very viscerally. My parents might not remember it at all, but I remember very much the sinking feeling of what just happened. Oh my God. The power went out.
Wow.
During
Talk about timing.
Yeah, but during a made-for-TV movie. It was, it was fake. But this kind of had that same feel. Like, I had that same sinking feeling. I'm like, I know this is all a work.
But...
Like, he produced a handgun. Like, again, wrestling is supposed to happen in, what's that called? A wrestling ring.
Yeah.
You know? Not in someone's house.
Arena.
Yeah. Not like, hey, by the way, we're a roving reporter and we're following the action here. And he gets a gun. You were going to say something.
No.
Oh,
Carry
okay.
on.
So... There was talk by the announcers that maybe they'd heard gunshots or maybe explosions, and eventually the feed was restored. And when the feed was restored, Austin was being dragged away, and Pillman was yelling, "Kill that son of a bitch and get out of my fucking way." Both of those made it to live air.
Oh, wow.
It's the only storyline WWF has ever actually apologized for.
Okay.
Which only made it seem more loose canon-y.
Yes.
Right? Now, Pillman was off TV for a while after that, and Austin went on to feud with Brett, the WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Just amazing. He comes back as healed as he's going to get in May of 97. Okay. Now, he had wrestled in the Survivor Series. Or had he wrestled, or was he just accompanying them? I forget. But the Hart Foundation wrestled against Ken Shamrock, I want to say Goldust, and the Road Warriors. Or maybe instead of Goldust, it was Ahmed Johnson. Anyway, they wrestled against 4 pretty solid guys in Calgary during the WWF In Your House Calgary Stampede. Tore the roof off the place. It was amazing, and Brian Pillman was a part of that in November of 96. Yeah. So now, fast forward to May of 97. He comes onto the screen. He's still allied with the Hart Foundation, by the way, but by this point, they turned completely heel, mostly owing to the turn that happened with Bret Hart at WrestleMania, with the double turn. Austin as an anti-hero is in full swing, and Hart's traditionalism is now fully heel. And Brian Pillman is a part of that.
Okay.
And he was often referred to as like a sibling to the Harts, which is wild because there were like 13 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you're in the Hart Foundation, you're supposed to be family. Like Bret Hart, Owen Hart, brothers.
Yeah.
Davey Boy Smith, brother-in-law. Jim the Anvil Neidhart, brother-in-law.
Got it.
Brian Pillman, affiliated with us, can't really say that he's with us, but he's always with us.
Okay.
But he was like a sibling. He and Owen had a pretty good bond. So, traditionalism is fully a heel thing now. Pillman then feuds with the one person who pushed the envelope as much as he had. If not farther, Goldust.
Okay.
He defeats Goldust in September of 1997, and he got to have one night with Goldust's manager, Marlena. And she was his real wife at the time. And the reason why this feud even happened was because Brian Pillman, in real life, had actually dated Terry Runnels prior to her dating Dustin. Just the lines keep. Yeah. So after one night, he turned her into his own personal sex pot, further scandalizing Goldust. And I think they had a evening gown match that was going to be set up. I can't quite remember. At the October pay-per-view, he was going to wrestle Dude Love in a heater match. Keep him relevant, but give him a little bit of time away from his primary feud opponent, who had previously been Mankind. Well, his primary feud opponent was Goldust at this point. And yeah, there was an evening gown match. I forget exactly what happened with that one. But again, gender bending.
Yeah.
So his opponent now is Dude Love, who'd previously been Mankind, who'd previously been Cactus Jack, who would shortly thereafter turn back into Cactus Jack and then back into Mankind and then somehow become Mick Foley the whole time.
Remarkably grounded individual.
Yes.
Who just has totally embraced the carny nature of the whole job.
Oh, in the 1999 Battle Royal? No, was it 99 or 98? It was one of them. He came out, I think it was 98. Yeah. I can't remember. It might have been 99. Anyway, Mick Foley came in as Cactus Jack, got eliminated. No, it was 98 because he was number 1 and number 2 was Terry Funk, Chainsaw Charlie.
Yeah, okay.
And they brought chairs to the ring during the Royal Rumble. And invited each other to hit each other in the head with the fucking chairs. Like, he wallops the shit out of Terry Funk, and Terry Funk's like, and then he bows his head for Terry Funk to hit him upside the head, and it staggers him, and then Terry Funk's like, come on, and he hits him in the head. Eventually, Cactus Jack gets booted. Around the 14th or 15th entrant, Mankind comes out. And then he gets tossed out. And then somewhere in the mid-20s, Dude Love comes out. And his kids told him, damn, Dad, you had 3 entries and you couldn't win. He's like, have you ever been to a Broadway show? You know how long it takes to change clothes? Like, think of what I did there. Sweaty. So.
Anybody with theater experience is like, yeah.
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 So at the October pay-per-view, he's scheduled to wrestle Dude Love. They never really got to that match because Brian died of a heart attack at the age of 35 the night before, or the day of. Now, it's not like he wasn't doing drugs at the time, but also he had congenital heart problems galore throughout his family. So the next night on Raw, Vince McMahon interviews Brian's wife on TV, who had been in the process of leaving Brian for another man while still pregnant with, we're not sure whose baby it is.
For real.
For real.
Oh.
Now, at no time was it ever clear where Brian's pretend madness and personal madness picked up and began. Like, you couldn't tell exactly where. And that's wrestling in the 90s in the nutshell. You start fairly conventionally, but definitely you evolve into something far more dangerous and forever different from what had come before. Here's a second and maybe even more telling epilogue. So he absolutely personified it.
Seems definitely like, I totally buy your idea that he's the avatar of this.
Exactly. I want to bring up the election of 2000 because it all broke down. Our system clearly did not work. Votes weren't counted in the recount, and those who claimed to be traditionalists were seeking power in any way that they could get it, including not honoring the tradition of democracy. And those who claimed to be progressive were really just centrists who trusted the institutions to the point of letting the other side get away with cheating, despite winning a popular election. And in early December 2000, the election was decided by a Supreme Court ruling, as it effectively stopped the recount in Florida, even though you can count fucking votes. That was December of 2000. In January of 2001, WCW was almost bought by another company. Everything was on the right path to do so, but at the last minute, one of the primary backers of that deal backed out, allowing AOL Time Warner to sell WCW to the WWF for less than what WCW had paid Bret Hart for his annual salary in 1997.
Really?
They sold, AOL Time Warner was taking over Turner.
Okay.
They sold WCW for $4.2 million to Vince McMahon because he wanted to purchase their entire wrestling library because he figured someday there would be a network of just wrestling. He has since sold that to NBC.
The
network.
archive?
Yeah. The network.
Really?
Yeah, WWE Network does not exist anymore unless you have a VPN from Europe. It's the Peacock now.
Oh, wow.
And the Peacock has been started, like, they didn't put all the stuff up. And they're like, no, we're going to censor some of this. So, like, there's a lot of history being lost.
Wow.
So Vince McMahon, for $4.2 million, bought his competitor.
Yeah.
From a corporate conglomerate that was trying to offload it. By the way, he didn't have to pay the salaries of the people who didn't come over. As I recall, those weren't his liabilities to keep, but I might be wrong. Now, the guy who found a way to control the chaos, Vince McMahon, in order to monetize the chaos that someone else had started, who went against everything his predecessors had stood for and who claimed to be a part of that same grand tradition when it suited him, was now in charge of all of it.
Yeah, I see the parallel you're drawing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Cheney.
Oh, I was going to say W.
Yeah, well.
I'm
being flip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything that happened afterward would be success or failure based on his abilities, unless he found a way to spin it otherwise by controlling the media surrounding what he'd inherited and taken in a new direction. Like co-opting a network, perhaps.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
So you have the personal epilogue,
Yeah.
but then you also have the very political epilogue.
Yeah.
So.
And corporate
Yeah.
epilogue.
Yeah, and the combination of that, say what you will.
All right.
So there you go. So, what have you gleaned? Because I'm done with this.
I gotta say, it is really eye-opening the extent to which all of these guys and gals, but the lion's share of the attention and the money go to the dudes. The extent to which what they do as part of this performance, Sparkly Murder Gymnastics, is like what other athletes do up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
They
So funny you say that, because all the successful wrestlers say that their most successful character is always themselves turned up to 11.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you know yourself better than any, manufactured, garbage truck driver, or college professor, whatever job-based thing. McMahon, I still remember that from a couple of episodes ago. But, what I'm talking about is one of the most powerful stories that I've heard about the experience of being a professional athlete. Is my dad worked for a guy who, for some period of time, was a quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
When my dad worked with him, it was 20 plus years after this guy had been in the league. He was an airline pilot at this point, but he had been so badly beaten up on the gridiron.
I bet
that it took him, like when Dad would go to the airport to go on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
You park in the employee lot and you got to walk a quarter mile.
Sure.
It would take my dad, I don't know, quarter mile, 5 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
At a leisurely pace, 5 minutes to walk, from his car to catch the shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's knees were so badly beaten up that he had to spend the same amount of time just getting out of his car and warming himself up.
Yep.
Once he got up and moving, he was ambulatory and he was okay. But
right.
But he had, I mean, the arthritis he had in his knees from getting knocked around so badly was just that bad. And so thinking about it as you've been talking about this, you know, listening to what Mick Foley had happened to him, you know, thinking about
Terry Funk's knees.
Yeah.
By the way, I mean, you just type in Terry Funk's knees on YouTube and you will find 2 or 3 different things talking about how it is bone on bone and he lives in unrelenting pain.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. And you know, you in passing we mentioned Chris Benoit.
Yep.
Last episode, and now talking about Pillman.
Yep.
This episode, you know, no wonder these guys wind up having addiction issues. No wonder these guys wind up having, you know, such drama in their personal lives outside of the ring with their spouses and their kids and whatever. Look at the amount of damage they're suffering.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally. I mean, the level of neurological trauma involved in faking getting the shit beat out of you.
It's quite something.
Like, I mean, on a psychological level, your adrenal glands don't know that, no, he's not really hitting me with a chair.
Right.
You know?
Well, and also he's really hitting me with the chair.
Well,
but yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, the comparison that got made when my wife and I were going through pre-marriage counseling for the church, the pastor who was doing that with us talked about when you are threatened, your body, we evolved in order to deal with leopards chasing us.
Right.
Your adrenal gland and your nervous system and your brain, they don't know the difference between the threat of your partner being angry at you and the leopard.
Yeah.
You know, and so
you have to kind of do a little CBT to deal with that.
The context of that conversation was, so the advice he gave us was, don't fight when you're in the car. Don't fight when you're right about to go to bed. Don't, you know, like, don't not fight. You're going to have to do it. Yeah. You're going to have hash it out. But for the sake of the long-term health of your relationship, don't do this before these times. Also for your physical safety.
Yeah.
If you're driving and you're having an adrenal reaction, you know, bad juju.
Yeah, sure.
But, you know, the same concept has to apply to the amount of psychological strain. You know, you talk about Hart and Michaels getting into a fight in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, just think about in any other industry, in any other kind of workplace. Like, I've had significant disagreements with my coworkers. Like, I have been legitimately pissed off at my coworkers. I have never been driven to the point of physical contact. And I don't think it's just because these guys are physical athlete type people. I'm going to say, I genuinely think there's a level of trauma and you know, constant fight or flight reaction that's involved in that kind of thing.
Well, and also the stakes are really high. The ego is there, and it is a zero-sum game on some levels, you know?
Okay, yeah.
You know, your ability to feed your family is based on the reputation that you can build in the ring with the audience, and that includes winning at times, and you want to win, and, you know, even though it's contrived, you want to win. I have a friend who actually got into a fight with a guy at work.
Okay. Well,
you know, I think also, you know, I didn't get in any fights when I was young, you know, and so it's not in any way normalized for me to fight much. You know, I did kung fu and I did stuff like that, but again, there are rules, you know.
Yeah.
I think that there's, different folks get wired differently.
Yeah.
But I would also say that, you brought up Chris Benoit. I think the early 2000s was paying in blood for the excesses of the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
And I don't know that it's any different than it had been in the 70s. I really should take a look at what stars died in the 70s and when they wrestled. And take into account the inflation of life expectancy now because we have better medicine. But, for instance, Bret Hart, he gets injured in the ring by Bill Goldberg, and his career's over.
Okay.
Gets kicked in the head and basically separates all of his neck muscles in his head. And he's massive concussion.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Yeah, because Bill Goldberg was poorly trained and pushed too hard too fast and didn't understand how to work.
Okay.
So, Mr. Intensity, too snug.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Jesus.
regularly people would be like, God damn, do I owe you money? Like... But I mean, but it looked great on TV, right? So Bret Hart, his career ended there. He had a stroke the next year, and it's damaged him in a lot of ways, obviously, and ways that he's never fully recovered. But more importantly, he's also the only remaining member from the Hart Foundation. Pillman died at 35. Owen died in 99 from an accident over the ring. Jim Neidhart was the most recent one to die. The British Bulldog died of an overdose in the mid-2000s. So many wrestlers that were great in the 80s and 90s died of overdoses and or heart attacks in the 2000s. So I think that there's a life shortening that happens in wrestling because of the constant grind.
Yeah.
They're working 300 days a year at a very physical thing where they're falling. And they talk about something called your bump card. That thing will get filled someday. You will not be able to take another bump. You just won't. And there's no real, the thing they say quite often is it's not how much you make, it's how much you save.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't have good financial planning. It's like any other sport, you know, when it comes to that. But, so yes, you do have the traumatizing, effect of their job. Absolutely. But also you have the lifestyle of their job and the self-medication that comes with that and the physical hazards of their job.
Yeah.
Even if you're being completely safe, running into the ropes, those ropes are steel cables. That shit hurts, Yeah. And so, when you take a flat back bump, you're still hitting.
Yeah.
And then you increase that from where you are, or, some of the moves that Bret used to do, he'd land on his knees. He'd make it look like he punched the shit out of a guy, but he landed on his knees from the second turnbuckle. I mean, he's got knee pads on, but I don't care, That shit hurts.
And that's before Vince had
Yeah.
made him put more give in the
Absolutely. So, yeah, I know.
I love that anecdote, by
the way. Once the boss realizes it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think all those things are also true for that. So, and I think in many ways politically the 2000s were us paying for the sins and the excesses of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, the bill comes due, and unfortunately it's young men who pay the price. So, by the way, Chris Benoit, there was a wrestler named Chris Nowinski who got a concussion and never got cleared again. And he was a Harvard graduate, so he was actually a smart fella. And he played on that to be in wrestling. He was a heel, of course, because he's educated. But he started studying what had happened to his brain. And he started really a lot of the research. It ties back to a trauma doctor in Pittsburgh, and it ties back to Chris Nowinski as well. And he started a foundation where they are studying the brains of traumatic brain injury football players and wrestlers and stuff like that. And so he asked Chris Benoit's dad, "Can we please have your son's brain so we can study it?" And his dad said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he had lesions on it as though he had Alzheimer's, and was an 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. And that's not to excuse what he did in any way, shape, or form, but he did have a move where he would jump off the top rope and headbutt you while you're on the mat. So he would still land on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But his body weight is still falling at, I can't do physics, but
yeah,
you're rattling your fucking brain. And like, you watch him and he's not just selling. That shit is clearly hurting him. He's doing that for the thing. He was also one of the few wrestlers who was willing to take a back of the head chair bump.
Wow.
Yeah. He didn't do it often, but like, you know, if the story called for it, he was okay with it. And he took that move, the swan dive headbutt, from Harley Race. Harley Race did it, and he ended up with all kinds of neurological troubles too. Like, and also, no, he took it. I'm sorry, not from Harley Race. Harley Race did it and had all kinds of neck issues.
Okay.
Dynamite Kid did it, and he ended up in a wheelchair. And Dynamite Kid gave his boots to Chris Benoit.
Oh.
And, you know, Chris Benoit idolized the Dynamite Kid and the way he worked. I mean, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, it's real sad what happened because of the 80s and 90s, specifically the shifts in the 90s, and how that impacted the 2000s. So
yeah, no one can believe that.
That's true musically, that's true politically, and that's definitely true in wrestling. So, all right, well, that was depressing.
A little bit.
I
there
can't
at the
wait
end
for Dune, where I'm sure it's just cheerful as fuck. People playing in, you know,
it'll
midnight
be
in
a
the
lot more
Oasis.
abstract.
Okay, well,
it'll be a lot more abstract.
Yeah, this was pretty visceral.
This literally. You know, talking about ECW was quite literally visceral. Good God. I'm amazed there weren't people disemboweled and some of the crap they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever look up the mass transit incident?
I did.
I'm sorry.
Sweet Jiminy Crickets.
You hear the dad screaming in the background?
I didn't watch video.
Oh, okay.
I didn't fall for the schmuck bait quite that hard.
All right.
I knew well enough. You know what? No, I don't want to. No, video
I
bad.
Sleep.
Video bad. Yeah. But I did look up people talking about it.
Yes.
And yeah, that's awful. And then the kid that it happened to wound up dying of complications from bariatric surgery. Yeah. So yeah, no.
Good time all around.
Yeah. So literally visceral at that point. Yeah, no, Dune is going to be more akin to our comic book episodes.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with that right now.
All right.
I'm gonna say the biggest issue I'm having right now is figuring out, okay, do I want to go through the synopsis of the book first, or do I want to do the history, or do I want to get into themes first? And that because there is literally so much shit going on in this book. Like,
and remember, I've never read it.
I know. And
talk to your English teacher friends.
Yeah.
And see which thing you should explain first about a book that a student has never read.
Okay.
And then teach me that way.
Okay. Yeah. That's good advice.
Where can people find you on the social medias? I
can be found on social media at Mr. Blaylock on TikTok and Instagram. I had to think for a moment about that. And then I can be found on Twitter at EHBlaylock. And where can people find you if they need to correct some detail you've gotten wrong?
And I feel like I've gotten a few wrong. Like, I think I compressed a few things and maybe mixed some things around because thematically,
yeah.
But please correct me at DaHarmony on the Twitter and on the Insta. Don't correct me on Insta. It's pictures of shows that I'm on or my kids doing cute things. But like
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, absolutely.
Come at him on
Twitter. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
But you can find me there. You can
and it'd be a lot more fun if you come at him for this stuff rather than the other shit people have come at him for.
Boy, howdy.
Recently. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Be more interesting, at least.
Yeah.
You could also find me on twitch.tv/Capital Puns every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or is this Daylight Savings Time?
Right now,
regardless.
It's PDT.
PDT. You could also find me at iMac Puns every Friday at about 4 p.m. PDT.
Okay.
And you could find me on the YouTubes at Excelsior Gaming Presents Marvel Strike Force, 99 Problems, but a Stitcher ain't one. You type in some combination thereof, you'll find us.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Hey, did you have a book you wanted to recommend or no?
No, it doesn't matter what book I have to recommend.
Good rock reference.
Yeah,
I like
thank
it.
you.
I'm going to recommend Foley is Good.
Okay.
Mick Foley has written so many of his own books. And this one is a really good memoir of his experiences in wrestling. If you're interested in hearing his tale of the Hell in the Cell and stuff like that leading up to it, honestly, Have a Nice Day. A Tale of Blood and Sweat Socks is a really, really good read. So that's the first one.
Blood and Sweat Socks.
That's the first great. One. The Foley is Good is the second one.
Okay.
So he's written about 3 or 4.
Okay.
So I recommend those books.
Yeah, I got to say, after all of this, I think Mick Foley is probably my favorite one of these guys. Like as an individual,
easy to have as a favorite.
I don't know enough about the athletics or any of that.
Sure.
But based on just the story of, okay, and so these guys then went and did this thing.
Yeah. No, he's definitely a really well-balanced individual, actually.
Yeah. So, very cool.
Collectively, where can they find us?
They can find us collectively at Geek History Time on the Twitter machine. So
cool. Yeah. Also, obviously, you found us here, so hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends. Send them an episode that you think they would like.
There
it's a buffet.
You go. Yeah.
Send it to them. It's a lot of fun that way. And yeah, you can give us a review. That'd be great. Rate, subscribe. Give us that 5-star that you know that we earned. My God, the research that we put into this is a labor of love. So
yes,
give us a little love back. So great. Well, for Geek History of Time, I'm Damian Harmony.
And I'm Ed Blaylock. And until next time, keep rolling 20s.